You have come here seeking an experience you call awakening. But I must tell you, you are seeking a phantom. You are waiting for a flash of light, a vision, a voice from the heavens, and in this very waiting, you are missing what is forever present and already given. The truth is not something to be acquired, not an event to be witnessed in time, for that which is eternal cannot be approached through the machinery of thought and time. What you will discover here is not a new teaching, but the great silent contradiction of everything the mind believes it knows. We are going to turn from the spectacular, from the pursuit of spiritual sensations, and enter into the simple, profound, and revolutionary recognition of what is. This is the journey we undertake together now. Indeed, the entire spiritual pursuit is often built upon this fundamental and cherished misconception. We sit in meditation waiting for a specific sign. We pray for a feeling of overwhelming peace to wash over us. We read book after book, hoping that the next concept will be the one that finally triggers the transcendent moment we have been promised. This is the great trap of the seeker, a trap woven from the very fabric of human consciousness, which is conditioned to believe that all value lies in the future, in the next moment, in the attainment of something we do not currently possess. We have been taught to spiritualize our desire, to turn our longing from worldly objects to spiritual ones. But the mechanism of longing itself remains untouched and continues to be the source of our sense of lack. Consider how this plays out in the quiet of your own daily practice. You sit, perhaps for 20 minutes or an hour, and the entire time there is a subtle, almost imperceptible background hum of expectation. Will this be the session? You wonder. Will I finally feel that famous bliss? Will my mind finally go completely silent? This expectation is not a passive state. It is an active force. It is the I, the personal sense of self, reasserting its central role in the drama of awakening. It is saying, I will be the one to achieve this. I will be the one to have this experience. And so you sit, a seeker waiting for a sought, after experience, and in that very posture of waiting, you are reinforcing the very entity that stands between you and the recognition of what is already true. The seeker is seeking itself, and in finding only more seeking, it perpetuates its own existence. This is not merely a philosophical point, it is the practical core of the matter. When you anticipate a flash of light, a vision, or a profound emotional release, you are setting up a template in consciousness. You are creating an image of what awakening should look like. Life or reality, or God, whatever term you wish to use, cannot conform to an image created by the past, by memory, by something you have read or heard. Reality is living, dynamic, and unconditioned. To come upon it, the mind must be completely free of any image, any model, any anticipation. The moment you are waiting for a specific experience, you are no longer open to the infinite, unformed potential of the present. You are listening for a specific note in a symphony, and in doing so, you miss the majesty of the entire composition. Let us take this out of the meditation room and into the ordinary moments of life. You are walking in a park, and you have heard that in true awareness, the beauty of a flower can be breathtaking. So you look at a flower and think, am I seeing it correctly? Is this the profound beauty I am supposed to feel? In that moment of self-conscious questioning, you are not with the flower. You are with your thought about the flower. You are comparing your present sensation to a remembered ideal. The direct, unmediated perception is lost, clouded by the seeker's agenda. The mind, in its attempt to grasp a spiritual experience, has inserted itself between you and the simple, unadorned fact of what is. The hope for a dramatic event is the ego's ultimate insurance policy. It allows the structure of the me to continue, albeit in a more refined, spiritually ambitious form. It says, I have not arrived yet, but one day I will. This postponement is the lifeblood of the separate self. The shocking, liberating truth is that what you are looking for is the looker. The awareness that is perceiving these very words, that is feeling the chair beneath you, that is hearing the sounds in the room. This aware presence is not an experience that comes and goes. It is the very ground of all experiencing. It is what you are. You cannot have it because you are it. To wait for it is like the eye waiting to see itself. It is already functioning as the capacity for seeing. Any phenomenon that arises within consciousness, be it a thought, a feeling, a vision of light, a wave of peace, is an object. It appears and it disappears. It is content within the field of awareness. To mistake any such temporary object for the awakening itself is to mistake a wave for the entire ocean. The wave is a pattern on the surface of the ocean. It has a beginning and an end. But the ocean itself, the vast, deep, silent substratum, is ever present. Your essential nature is that ocean, not the wave. The pursuit of an experience is the pursuit of a wave. And no matter how beautiful or thrilling the wave may be, it will inevitably subside, leaving the seeker once again in a state of lack, searching for the next, better, more permanent wave. Therefore, the gentle yet radical invitation is to cease waiting. This does not mean to cease being attentive. On the contrary, it means to become more deeply attentive than ever before, but to attend without a goal, without a shopping list of desired outcomes. It is to bring a pure, non-demanding attention to the totality of this moment, to the sensations in the body, to the flow of thoughts, to the sounds in the air, without any intention to change any of it, without any hope of extracting a special spiritual state from it. In that total relinquishment of the search, when the mind is no longer grasping for a future reward, a profound quietness descends. It is not a quietness you create. It comes of itself when the frantic activity of seeking exhausts itself. And in that quietness, there is no one left to have an experience. And yet, everything is experienced in its suchness, in its pristine reality. The gate was never locked. You were simply trying to pick a lock that did not exist, all the while standing in the open field of boundless freedom. This is the great and subtle secret that undermines the entire spiritual marketplace. We have been conditioned to live as if we are empty vessels, perpetually in need of being filled from some external source. We seek truth in books, in the words of teachers, in new philosophies, as if it were a piece of information that could be downloaded into our minds. We pursue peace as if it were a commodity we could acquire, a state we could achieve once all our problems are solved. This very orientation, that we are here and truth is there, that we are lacking and fulfillment is something to be gained, is the primary illusion that perpetuates the sense of separation. The simple, shattering fact is that what we are seeking, we already are. The peace that passeth understanding is not a future reward. It is the very fabric of our conscious being, obscured only by the frantic activity of trying to get it. You can observe this in the most mundane moments of your day. You are driving in traffic, and a feeling of tension and irritation arises. Immediately, the mind swings into action, not just with the thought about the traffic, but with a deeper, more fundamental movement. I must get away from this. I need to find a state of calm. So you may turn on some peaceful music, or you may begin to recite a mantra, all in an effort to replace the irritation with peace. This is the classic model of acquisition. You are treating peace as something you do not have, and therefore must go out and get. But in that very effort, you have affirmed the reality of the irritation and your separation from peace. You have turned peace into an object, a trophy to be won in your battle against unpleasant experience. The truth, however, is that the aware space in which the irritation arises, the very consciousness that is aware of the tension, the frustration, the sound of the horn, that space is itself already peace. It is undisturbed, clear, and impartial. It is the canvas upon which the emotion is painted. You are trying to acquire the canvas by manipulating the painting. This is the core of the dilemma. We are like a man standing in a vast, clear lake, dying of thirst, and frantically scooping up handfuls of water, wondering why he cannot hold it. He fails to see that he is already immersed in the very substance he seeks. Our seeking is the frantic scooping. Our true nature is the lake. The peace, the love, the intelligence we seek are not attributes to be collected. They are the essence of the awareness that is reading these words right now. They are not states that come and go, but the timeless context in which all states, happy and sad, peaceful and agitated, arise and subside. Think of the sun. It does not need to acquire brightness. It shines because it is its nature to shine. In the same way, your fundamental consciousness does not need to acquire peace or love. It is peace. It is love in its pure, unmanifest state. The clouds of thought and emotion may pass through it, sometimes obscuring its radiance from your own view, but they do not alter its inherent nature in the slightest. The entire spiritual effort, when misdirected, is an attempt to manipulate the clouds. The real transformation is a matter of turning your attention from the clouds to the sky itself, to the vast, open, luminous space that you are. This is why all practices aimed at air, getting something, are ultimately limited. They can refine the content of your experience. They can create calmer clouds, more pleasant and spiritual looking clouds, but they leave the fundamental identity, the I, that is seeking and acquiring, intact and in charge. The I becomes a spiritual collector, amassing experiences, states of consciousness, and insights, building a more impressive and enlightened persona. But this persona is still a construct, a collection of ideas about who you are, and it stands as a barrier to the formless, boundless reality of what you truly are. The moment you realize that truth is not an acquisition, the very foundation of the seeker crumbles. There is no one left to acquire anything. There is only the recognition of what has always been the case. This recognition cannot be organized or planned. It is not the result of a 10-step program. It is a sudden, quiet, intuitive understanding that flashes into the mind when the effort to acquire has, even for a moment, ceased. It is the understanding that the listener is not separate from the sound, the seer is not separate from the seen. The subject-object division, which is the bedrock of the acquiring mind, is seen through. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you, in your awareness. The love you sought in relationships was a faint reflection of the love that you are. The peace you sought in quiet environments was a hint of the inherent peace of your own being. The intelligence you admired in others was a glimpse of the impersonal intelligence that animates your own perception. Nothing needs to be added. Everything needs to be recognized. The treasure is not buried in a distant land. It is hidden in plain sight, being the very ground upon which you have been standing all along, so close that it has been overlooked in the search for something more complex, more dramatic, and more distant. And so we come to the very engine of this seeking, the mechanism that keeps us feeling separate from the wholeness we inherently are. It is the mind itself, with its ceaseless activity, that constructs and maintains the barrier. This is not to condemn thought, which is a magnificent tool for navigating the practical world. The problem arises when this tool assumes command, when it proclaims itself the sole arbiter of reality and sets itself the impossible task of grasping the infinite. The mind, by its very nature, is an instrument of division and measurement. It operates by comparing, labeling, and storing information. It can only know in parts, in sequences, in the duality of subject and object. It cannot know wholeness, because to know it would be to reduce it to a known object, and in that very act, it would be lost. You can see this barrier being erected in real time in the flow of your own life. You are looking at a beautiful sunset. For one timeless instant, there is only the stunning display of color, a pure, wordless perception. Then the mind intervenes. It says, "This is beautiful." It may then continue, "I must remember this," or "I wish my friend were here to see this," or it may launch into a scientific explanation of light refraction. In that movement from pure perception to mental commentary, a subtle shift occurs. The I, the separate self, re-enters the picture. The direct, unmediated experience is replaced by a thought about the experience. The mind has inserted itself as a translator, and in doing so, it has created a distance between you and the sunset. You are no longer one with the beauty. You are an observer of it. This is the birth of the sense of separation. This mental machinery is not idle. It is a factory of lack. It constantly compares your present moment to a memory of the past or a projection of the future. It tells you that you were happier yesterday, or that you will be fulfilled tomorrow when you get that promotion, find that partner, or achieve that spiritual state. It thrives on problems to solve, because in solving problems, it reinforces its own indispensability. When there is no immediate external problem, it will turn inward and scrutinize itself, creating a problem out of its own existence. Am I meditating correctly? Why do I have so many thoughts? Why haven't I had a breakthrough? This constant churning is like stirring up mud from the bottom of a clear pond. The water, your innate clarity and peace, is still present, but it is obscured by the very activity you are using to try and find it. The pursuit of spiritual awakening itself becomes the ultimate food for this mental structure. The mind takes the concept of enlightenment and makes it the most desirable object of all. It reads about it, fantasizes about it, and creates a detailed image of what it should be like. It then measures your current state against this idealized image and consistently finds you lacking. This creates a perpetual state of seeking, which gives the mind a sense of purpose and identity. The spiritual seeker is a very robust and sophisticated ego, perhaps the most resilient of all. It can willingly endure any austerity, practice any discipline, all to achieve its goal. But the goal is designed to be always out of reach, because the mind itself, the seeker, is the very obstacle to its own attainment. You cannot use the mind to get rid of the mind. You cannot use the sense of I to dissolve the I. This is the profound and liberating crisis we must all confront. The instrument we have relied upon our entire lives to know reality is, in fact, the very thing that prevents its knowing. The seeker is the source of the problem. So what is to be done? The answer is not to fight the mind, to suppress thoughts, or to try to create a blank state. That, too, is an activity of the mind, a struggle that it will happily engage in forever. The transformation begins when you simply see this mechanism in operation. Without judgment, without trying to stop it, you bring a gentle, impartial attention to the whole process. You watch as the mind compares. You feel the subtle tension it creates when it wants something other than what is. You notice how it constantly pulls you away from the sensory richness of the present moment and into its abstract world of commentary and story. In this watching, a miraculous shift occurs. You are no longer completely identified with the flow of thought. You discover that there is an awareness that is aware of the mind's activity. This awareness is not itself a thought. It is a silent, spacious presence that can contain the mind without being disturbed by it. It is the clear sky that can hold the storm clouds of anxiety or the gentle breezes of happy thoughts without being defined by any of them. This recognition does not come from the mind. It is a falling away of the mind's dominance. It is the dawning realization that you are not the thinker, but the awareness in which thinking happens. The barrier was never the content of the mind, but the unconscious identification with it. When you see that you are the vastness and not the cloud passing through it, the search begins to wither from within. Not because you have found what you were looking for, but because you have realized you were never the one who was lost. This seeing, this dawning recognition of awareness itself necessitates a fundamental and practical reorientation of our entire being. It demands a turning, not in physical space, but in the very direction of our attention. For our entire lives, consciousness has been flowing outward, like a river rushing toward the sea, seeking its fulfillment in objects, in experiences, in relationships, in achievements. We have been taught that the source of happiness, security, and meaning lies out there in the world of form. We look to our bank accounts for security, to other people for love, to accomplishments for validation, and even to spiritual experiences for confirmation of our progress. This outward gaze is the default setting of the unexamined life, and it is the very movement that perpetuates the sense of a fragile, separate self navigating a world of otherness. The invitation now is to reverse this flow. It is to turn the current of attention back upon itself to discover its source. This is not an invitation to withdraw from the world into a cave of isolation. It is an invitation to discover the foundation of the world itself. You can engage with life fully, but from a different center of gravity. Imagine you are watching a captivating film. You are engrossed in the drama, feeling the character's joy and pain. But if you are a discerning viewer, a part of you remains aware that you are sitting in a theater, that the light on the screen is just a projection. You are simultaneously immersed and free. The turning we speak of is like remembering you are in the theater. It is a shift from being lost day in, the content of experience, to abiding as the aware space in which all content unfolds. This turning is an act of profound simplicity, yet it is the most difficult thing for the mind to comprehend because it involves no acquisition, no new activity. It is, in fact, a cessation of an old activity. It is the cessation of seeking outwardly for what can only be found where seeking begins. You can practice this turning right now, in this moment. Notice the sensations in your body, the pressure of your feet on the floor, the weight in your chair. Now, instead of focusing on these sensations as objects out there that you are perceiving, feel back into the space from which you are perceiving them. Feel the awareness itself, the knowing presence that is cognizant of these sensations. You are not trying to find a thing. You are relaxing back into the subject, the I am, before it attaches itself to any object. You are turning from the known to the knower. In daily life, this turning transforms every moment from a potential distraction into a portal. You are washing dishes. The habitual mind is bored, thinking about what it will do later, judging the chore as tedious. The outward flow is seeking a more interesting experience. To turn inward is to feel the warm water on your hands, to hear the clink of the plates, but to do so while simultaneously resting as the aware space that holds the entire activity. The chore has not changed, but your relationship to it has been utterly transfigured. It is no longer a task being done by a separate. You, to get to a better moment, it is life itself, expressing as the movement of washing, appearing in the timeless now of your awareness. A difficult conversation arises. The old pattern is to be fully identified with your position, your emotions, your reactions. You are defending, attacking, or retreating. All outward movements. The turn inward is to, even in the heat of the exchange, feel the raw energy of the emotion in your body without immediately being compelled by it. It is to listen to the other person, not just with the mind preparing a rebuttal, but from the stillness of the awareness that is listening. From this space, responses may arise that are not from the conditioned personality, but from a place of intelligence and compassion that the separate self could never access. This is the great secret. The peace, the love, the intelligence you have been seeking in the world of 10,000 things have their source within you, not as psychological attributes, but as the very nature of the consciousness you are. By turning your attention from the outer to the inner, you are not abandoning the world. You are, for the first time, coming into a right relationship with it. You are no longer a beggar at its door, hoping for scraps of satisfaction. You are discovering yourself to be the king who has been wandering in rags, unaware of your own kingdom. The world remains, but it loses its power to disturb your fundamental peace, because you know it now for what it is, a magnificent, ever-changing appearance within the immutable, silent, and loving presence that you are. The search ends not with a final destination, but with the realization that you were always home, simply facing the wrong direction. This turning inward, this profound reorientation from the world of objects to the formless subject, brings us to the very frontier of all we have ever known. It is here that we encounter the most radical and unsettling implication of this entire journey, the direct contradiction of all mental knowledge. The mind, our trusted guide and mapmaker, has built its entire empire on a foundation of accumulated facts, remembered experiences, and carefully constructed models of reality. It believes with absolute certainty that it knows what a tree is, what love is, what you are, and what God is. It has definitions for everything, and it measures every new experience against this vast library of the known. But this library, for all its apparent volume, is entirely composed of the past. It is dead information, the echo of life, not life itself. To come upon the living truth, this entire structure of accumulated knowing must be seen for what it is, a barrier, not a bridge. Your mind knows the concept of silence. It can define it as the absence of sound. It can recall memories of quiet places and yearn for such silence again. But this is merely a thought about silence, a ghost of a previous experience. The actual living silence that is the ground of all sound, cannot be known by the mind. The mind can only know objects, and true silence is not an object. It is the non-objective reality in which the mind itself arises. To know it, the mind, with its constant chatter and referencing, must fall quiet. In that quiet, there is a knowing that is not mental, an intimacy with silence that shatters the concept of it. This is the contradiction. The mind must relinquish its claim to know in order for a deeper, intuitive knowing to dawn. Consider your own name. The mind holds a vast dossier on this person. It contains your history, your accomplishments, your failures, your personality traits, your likes and dislikes. It believes this collection of data to be you. It defends this entity, promotes it, and feels wounded when it is attacked. This mental construct is what you have taken yourself to be. But in a moment of pure awareness, when you are utterly engrossed in a task or simply resting as the witness, where is this person? The data is still stored in the memory, but the felt sense of being a separate, solid self has receded. In its place is a simple, aware presence, unnamed and unqualified. The direct experience contradicts the mental story. The mind says, I am John, a 40-year-old accountant from Chicago. Awareness simply is. To abide as awareness is to live the contradiction of the mental knowledge of who you are. This is why all theological and philosophical arguments about the nature of God or reality are ultimately futile. They are battles between one set of mental concepts and another. The mind argues about a word, God. Each combatant filled with certainty about their own definition, which is really just a composite of things they have read, heard, or experienced. But reality cannot be captured in a definition. It is the undefinable, the immeasurable, the unknown. To know it, the mind must admit its ultimate ignorance. It must surrender its most prized possession, its certainty. This is not a passive resignation, but an active, vibrant state of not knowing. It is a mind that is humble, open, and innocent, free from the arrogance of conclusion. You can see this play out in your relationships. You have a mental dossier on your partner, your parent, your child. You know how they are. You know what they will say, how they will react. This knowledge is your prison. It prevents you from ever meeting them anew in the fresh, unfiltered reality of this moment. You are relating to your concept of them, not to the living, changing mystery standing before you. To drop this knowledge, to meet them without the filter of past experience, is to invite a revolution in your relationship. It is to see them, perhaps for the first time, as they are, not as you think they are. This is the contradiction. To truly know another, you must give up everything you think you know about them. The spiritual path, then, is not a process of accumulating more and more refined knowledge. It is a path of unlearning. It is a systematic shedding of every conclusion, every belief, every cherished opinion you hold about yourself and the universe. It is to stand naked of knowledge, vulnerable and open to the mystery of existence. This can feel terrifying to the mind, which equates this state with chaos and insanity. But it is in this fertile void, this state of I do not know, that something entirely new can reveal itself. It is an intelligence not based on memory, a love not based on attachment, a peace not dependent on circumstances. This revelation does not add to your knowledge. It obliterates the nawa and leaves only the knownless knowing, the silent, luminous mystery that has no name, yet is closer to you than your own breath. The mind will call this nothingness, but it is in fact the only true substance, the fullness from which all things are made. And so we arrive, not at a new destination, but at the ever-present point of origin. This knowingless knowing, this silent awareness that remains when all conclusions are surrendered, is what we are. It is not a state to be achieved, but the fundamental reality to be recognized. This recognition is not an intellectual understanding. It is a direct, non-conceptual apperception that what you have been seeking as an object, you have always been as the subject. The peace that you long to acquire is the very substance of the consciousness reading these words. The love you sought from others is the innate quality of this same awareness, unconditioned and self-luminous. The intelligence that navigates this complex world is this very presence, functioning spontaneously without the need for a central commander called I. This is not an abstract metaphysical proposition. It is the most practical discovery you will ever make, with implications that reverberate through every moment of your existence. When you are stuck in traffic, the frustration that arises is a pattern of energy appearing in the vast space of your awareness. When you are lost in the mental story about the traffic, you are identified with the pattern. You become the frustration. But when there is a simple noticing, there is frustration. Without judgment or resistance, a space opens up. In that space, you are not the frustration. You are the awareness that contains it.